thrilled to be here tonight. 60 years? You remember where you were in September of 1958, if you existed yet? 58 was a pretty big year. In September alone, the novel Dr. Zhivago was published. The first ever color video was recorded. The Yankees won the pennant, again. The Donna Reed show premiered on ABC. Elvis Presley was still in the Army. The #1 song on the radio was Volare by Dean Martin. A gallon of gas cost 25 cents, and the average new house went for $12,000. Also in early September, a brief article appeared in the Citizen Advertiser saying that children between the ages of 5 and 15 who might be interested in children's theater were invited to come to the Cayuga Museum. The following Saturday, 45 curious, eager children and their parents materialized, and Auburn Children's Theater was born. My mother, Susan C. Riford, was also the mother of ACT. She was tireless, incredibly imaginative, undaunted. Faced with a challenge, she didn't just rise to it. She ran over it with her car. She could charm leaves from the trees and donations from Ebenezer Scrooge. She could stand up to anyone, and did, for the cause of theater for children at first, and then the cause of theater for everyone. When the idea of a children's theater was broached by the museum's director, Professor Walter K. Long, she ran with it. She designed the curriculum, hired the teachers, mostly experts recruited from nearby colleges. We kids studied acting, theater history, movement, improv, stagecraft, makeup. Tuition for all of this was a whopping $10 a year per child. My mom wrote or adapted all the plays, many of which have since been published. She did the publicity, printed the programs, made most of the costumes. She was an expert, thanks to her custom-made little girls' dress business in the early 50s, dresses that were featured in Vogue and sold in stores like Neiman Marcus. But that's a whole other story. When it began, ACT had classes every Saturday at the museum's annex, now called the Carriage House Theater. It was a real little theater with a proscenium and footlights. I remember glamorous old cast pictures on the walls from 1930s community theater productions. It looked, felt, and smelled like theater, magic, mysterious, romantic. In the loft, there was a beautiful working exhibit built by the Cayuga Valley Model Railroad Club, plus some of Theodore Case's original sound-on-film inventions from early in the century. We spent hours up there, exploring and playing pretend among those weird machines. The whole place was paradise. But for the adults, as you can imagine, running ACT took work, and it quickly changed all our lives. Now, on any given day when I got home from school, I'd walk into a buzzing hive of prop making, costume sewing, mimeograph machine whirring, phone call returning mayhem. This was before email and texting, or even answering machines. People actually had to connect to get something done. Because my mom certainly didn't do it alone. She had a lot of help. At any one time, there was an army of volunteers on the front line. Like her, they were enthusiastic, single-minded, dedicated, and they each wore a lot of hats. Talk about multitasking. They had families to take care of too, other jobs and commitments, but they did it. They made ACT happen. First were Barbara Dove and Helen McLaughlin, then many others, including Evelyn Day, Joan Fisher, Sue Ford, Ruth Thomas, May Osborne, Joyce Simmons, Tony DeRio, and Joanne Forsman, who's here tonight. Back then, at the age of 8, I didn't know or care about how this weird and wondrous reality of a children's theater had been created out of whole cloth. I just assumed my mother could do anything, because she did. And I didn't really care about why. I just loved every minute of it, like all the kids did. I think largely because of her deep love and respect for children. You never felt any pressure. You just needed to be interested in telling a story. So doing a play wasn't scary, it was fun. I think that's why ACT meant so much to so many kids, especially those who were shy, maybe didn't have the easiest home life, were bullied at school, lonely or awkward. ACT welcomed them all, and it was transformational. So often, a timid new kid getting into costume and makeup for the first time would suddenly blossom into a happy, confident young person. Because the thing about acting is, it takes you out of yourself, literally. Plus, it's definitely a team sport. If we learned anything, we learned that in the theater, other people depend on you. Theater folks have to work together. By the 4th year, ACT had 200 students and climbing, from kindergarten through high school. Based on your age, you were in a special group with a name like Harlequins, Jesters, Banner Players. The place was jumping. ACT was already on its way to being a cherished Auburn institution. But that wasn't enough for Mrs. R, as all the kids called her. She basically never met a laurel she wanted to rest on. She immediately embraced another big project. As she explained it, in the winter of 1962, during a teenage theater history class, we were discussing pageant wagons of the Middle Ages. We were looking at pictures of those traveling horse-drawn stages when one boy spoke up. We should have a pageant wagon for ACT and go around to parks in the summertime with our plays. I thought it was a great idea. And voila, the act wagon. Aluminum and steel stage house mounted on a farm wagon chassis, designed and built with help from the city of Auburn, Auburn Hoist, and Red Star Express. Counterweights for raising and lowering the stage, tailgate dressing rooms, ceiling and floor tracks for curtains and scenery. Its exterior was hand-painted by former circus artist Charles Lockyer, known in that world as Sunburst Charlie for his spectacular circus wagons. It cost $8,500 to make this bread box on wheels, a lot of money in 1962. But by then, my mother was armed with a whole summer's bookings she'd secured from the Auburn playgrounds and the New York State Fair. Contracts in hand, she asked the bank for a loan. And what do you know? The bank said yes. I don't think I've ever had such pure fun as we did during those summers on the Act Wagon. Some of you here tonight were lucky enough to share this unique experience. I'm talking to you, Lori Sawchuk, so you know what I mean. We were a troupe of traveling players, bringing stories to kids on playgrounds. They cheered when we arrived. We were self-contained and did everything, sharing both technical and acting jobs. One of us those first years was a tall, exuberant boy named Preston Thomas, for whom this theater is named. We all, especially Mom, who also drove the truck, of course, developed epic arm muscles from heaving the stage up and down, lugging stuff around, including the often leaky car battery we used for power to run the music and sound effects. We did each other's makeup, mended costumes. We did classics like The Wizard of Oz and Cinderella, plus Mom's originals like Gypsy Treasure. For 2 decades, the Act Wagon crisscrossed the state every summer with hundreds of performances at parks, playgrounds, arts festivals. It won 2 New York State Community Service Awards for its outstanding cultural contribution. But this was only in the summertime. In other months, to serve kids who weren't in ACT, she created an ambitious in-school program whose teacher actors brought participatory creative dramatics directly into classrooms to 10,000 students a year. That's Mom as the story lady. Oh, but wait, there's more. She started a magical clown college for children with the help of veteran Barnum and Bailey clown Joe Myers. That's Mom as a clown with me and my daughter Caroline, who's here tonight. There's a famous family story of my mother being stopped for speeding while in her clown costume. The judge let her off. How could he not? And still more, in winter stock, ACT produced adult classics like The Glass Menagerie and Lion in Winter. In 1970, Mom and Barbara and Bill Dove spearheaded another new venture, Springside Dinner Theater, a delicious combination of summer stock and dinner theater, produced and directed by my brilliant husband, Alan Toman, who's here tonight. Springside was an immediate success. success and went on for several years even after ACT, now called Auburn Civic Theater, was no longer its sponsoring entity. One of its wonderful young actors, Joanne O'Connor, is also here tonight. And then the pièce de résistance, and you're sitting in it. Some of you remember the beautiful old carousel that began its life in this very building, and in 1972 was sold to the Long Island Museum. The city was up in arms. Generations had grown up with the beloved merry-go-round. How could they take it away? To Long Island, of all places. And my mother's brain immediately began to percolate. The empty building could become a theater. And before you could say, let's put on a show, it was a Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney movie. By spring, she rallied the troops. First, she enlisted the Cayuga County Legislature. And once the politicians were on board, she got architects Beardsley and Beardsley to assess the structure's integrity. Most important to her was preserving these gorgeous curved laminated beams. Luckily, they were built to last. Then she brought in ACT friend and theater mastermind Dan LeBay. And from the bare bones of its roof on stilts and concrete slab, which was all that now remained, he designed an intimate bandbox theater for musical reviews and vaudeville, with the old Island Park Theater as inspiration. He and his students, plus one paid carpenter, got it done in only 4 weeks. And the exterior was decorated by old friend, Sunburst Charlie. Lighting equipment was mostly homemade from large tin cans, thanks to master electrician Ray Fisher and my talented lighting designer brother, Lloyd Sandy Riford. The orchestra was an ancient upright piano. For the audience, 150 folding wooden chairs were acquired just in time for the grand opening on July 4th, 1972. Here's how it went in Mom's words. We invited all the VIPs and their families and were sold out. The show, a snappy musical revue starring 8 enthusiastic college students, was ready to go. And then the rains came. It was the great flood of 1972, courtesy of Hurricane Agnes. Sections of the city were evacuated. Owasco Lake overflowed and surged into the new theater, setting the wooden chairs afloat.
Oh no.
We postponed for a week, but even then, with washed out roadways and parking lots like swimming pools, it was tough to attract a crowd. On opening night, there were 5 people in the audience, all of whom were related to the cast. But the rest is a much happier history. Over that first summer, audiences began to trickle in. As a showcase for vaudeville and children's shows, it became a destination for families picnicking in the park. One popular master of ceremonies in those years was my other very gifted brother, Tom Riford, who's here tonight. Under superb artistic director Drew Harris, a growing audience and more elaborate productions demanded a bigger, better facility with wing and fly space and other improvements like better seats. It seemed like all the great musicals happened in those years, from Guys and Dolls, Sound of Music, Kiss Me Kate, to Kismet and I Do, I Do. There is the marvelous Mickey Maywald Lord, who's here tonight. Mrs. R was ever present, setting up concessions, folding programs, fitting costumes, supervising ushers, arriving in a cloud of dust in her station wagon, which was always low on gas, with a last-minute prop or wayward actor, and then greeting theatergoers with a smile. It worked. By the early 80s, the merry-go-round was on the map. And it was time for Mrs. R to retire. With my dad, Senator Steve Riford, who'd encouraged and supported her every step of the way, and who frequently remarked, "Oh, I go to the theater often to visit my wardrobe and my furniture." They moved to the island of Maui, where she continued to write, direct, and produce, and also found time to write a well-received historical novel for children. So, what would she say about this spectacular theater we're in today, with its pre-Broadway premieres, its dazzling performers, its huge professional staff and loyal, sophisticated audience, its phenomenal year-round cultural contribution, especially for children. Well, I know what she'd do. She'd burst into tears of gratitude. It is such a joy and honor to speak about her tonight in this place. This wonderful place that now celebrates 60 years of her love of the theater in all the best possible ways. Mrs. R would be so proud. So, happy anniversary. Congratulations.